Everything just changed in the Stanley Cup Finals after a historic comeback from the Edmonton Oilers with key players stepping up in Leon Draisaitl and Calvin Pickard in his relief game. I'm going to break down exactly how this entire series just changed and how the Florida Panthers can also find themselves getting back in the series in Game 5. We're going to break down everything you know from both sides, the historic comeback, how this changed everything, and just how these teams can take the lead in Game 5 later on this episode. Before we get into that, if you're part of the 87.5% watching this and you haven't hit the sub button yet, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. We're going to be giving you updates from all around the league, the Stanley Cup Finals, going into the draft, free agency, anything you want to know in the NHL, you can catch right here on Hattrick HQ. So go down and hit that free subscribe button. Below that, Darius, we got to hop straight into the first topic today, where we did see the historic comeback from the Edmonton Oilers. Now, we're going to get into the Florida Panthers side in a little bit, but looking at this, we've seen the comeback. We've seen the Oilers compete. The 3-goal deficit comeback. What is your initial thoughts on this comeback after that disappointing 6-1 loss? With these players stepping up, we'll get into Draisaitl in a very hot second. But what is your thoughts on this historic comeback we just seen?
Well, based on everything we've seen so far this postseason and even last postseason, I would have been very shocked if the Oilers didn't have a bounce back game. Maybe not win the game, but if they didn't have a bounce back game and if the game went similarly to Game 3, I would have been shocked. But I was even more shocked by how many people said on Twitter and wherever you could find it last night that this series was over after the first period. I was shocked because the Edmonton Oilers have made a living on comebacks. They are the comeback kings. Almost every single game they've won in these playoffs has been a comeback. So to say that they were down and out and this series was over and get ready to hand the Stanley Cup to the Florida Panthers after the first period last night, I think was very premature, and a great second period, which is absolutely insane to me because the Florida Panthers are the kings of the long change in the second period. The Edmonton Oilers came through with a brilliant performance in that second period. Third period, pretty impressive goal from Jake Wallman as well. And then obviously something, it's like a mirror of each other, these two teams. Obviously, with Corey Perry scoring that late goal a couple games ago to tie the game, they go into overtime. Brad Marchand wins in overtime. The opposite happens in this game with the late goal to tie the game, go into overtime, and Leon Draisaitl wins it. But like I said, not even that shocked that they came back, right? Because they've been the comeback kings, but Leon Draisaitl continuing to make NHL history, Oilers history, and this team is hungry. This team wants it. And yes, at times the Florida Panthers do look like they're dominant, like they are the better team, but the Oilers continue to weather the storm and continue these comebacks, and they're a dangerous team. No lead is safe around these Edmonton Oilers.
And that's the craziest thing. We've seen the most overtime goals in a single postseason held by now Leon Draisaitl after the OT winner last night. As we said, the 3-goal deficit is the 7th team in NHL history to win a 3-goal comeback in the Stanley Cup Finals. This team has been really showing that, listen, yes, that 6-1 game was a bit of not what they should look like. They came back, they come out of this 3-0 hole, it goes to overtime, they get the win to even the series, and the big thing is, listen, we're seeing key players step up. Draisaitl, McDavid, both with 32 points apiece, Evan Bouchard with 22 points. This team has a lot of players that have been stepping up. You're seeing key guys step up. Podkolzin got an assist on the winner last night, too. There's a lot of familiar faces stepping up and people that weren't expected. But the big story, in my opinion, around Edmonton at this moment is the goaltending. We know right now Calvin Pickard came in to have the win after not starting the game. You can see the list here of guys that came in relief, won a Stanley Cup final game. Pickard played incredible, but the big question surrounding the Edmonton Oilers at this point is, and I'm going to kind of throw it to you, who do you start in Game 5? We've seen Pickard really play well. Skinner stepped his game up in the second round going into these finals. Not a great last game, not a great start to this game, but overall, how do you look at this and who do you go with in Game 5?
Well, the short answer is Pickard. It's Calvin Pickard that you have to go with in Game 5. But the longer answer, and the reason for that, is because, yes, Stuart Skinner has been good for most of the time in these playoffs, but I think that he's struggled and also been left out to dry at times over the last couple of games. And, it's not necessarily his fault, but the team has to respond in front of him. And they did when they pulled him for Pickard in that game last night in Game 4. So to me, the playoffs, the Stanley Cup Finals, everything goes through your goaltender and the confidence that you have in your goaltender. And I feel like Pickard is playing. He hasn't lost in this year's playoffs, and he's playing with a lot of confidence. He was brilliant in relief of Stuart Skinner. Obviously, the last goal there, the tying goal with 19 seconds left, something that you would like to see saved, and it was kind of some awkward positioning, but everyone was dog tired. The Panthers are good at what they do. We know that, and they pin them in the zone. So, you can forgive him for that, but he's been brilliant in this year's playoffs. Everything to me again is momentum shifts and momentum swings. He has the momentum on his side. He has every time that he started in the playoffs this year. You have to go back to him because he gave you a chance to win. So ride him until the wheels fall off. Again, you have to go back and, between the two goaltenders, just the way they've been interacting with each other, just from the outside looking in, I don't think either of them care who plays as long as they end up getting that Stanley Cup.
And I mean, the big thing is, listen, it's going to come down to this game. We know how crucial Game 5 is. You do not want to go down. We're a team's one win away, so going in, having the confidence in either Skinner or Pickard, this is going to get very interesting. And Oilers fans, we're going to get into the Florida Panthers stuff, but what is your thoughts on this goaltending situation? Who would you start? Is it Pickard? We see him 7-0 at the moment. We know right now how good Skinner has been over all these games, minus the last two. What is your thoughts on this? But let's go straight into the Florida side, where I do think, listen, they still have a very good chance to take Game 5, win the Stanley Cup once again. We're seeing key guys stepping up right now. Sam Bennett scoring that goal. We know how good Brad Marchand's been. 3 goals in the first 3 games, or 4 goals, I should say. Right now, Darius, listen, obviously it's even right now. They blew the lead, 3-0. Are you worried? And listen, we'll get into Bobrovsky in a minute and how this is a huge part of it, but are you worried from the Florida side where they might lose this game, lose the next, and then lose the Stanley Cup Finals?
I wouldn't say I would be worried if you're a Florida Panthers fan. And I think that the Florida Panthers are a fantastic team. They play a very simple style that no team has been able to figure out, which is incredible for them, and it works. It absolutely works. The way that they defend, the way that they forecheck, all of the systems they have in place, it works for them, and they're probably the best team in the NHL, right? Now, whether or not they win the Stanley Cup, obviously still up in the air, but I wouldn't say I'm worried. They dictated a lot of play throughout the last couple of games, even in the game yesterday, last night in Game 4. The first period was absolutely theirs, all theirs. But the thing for me that will be the deciding factor is that this series is going either, well, for sure, 6, maybe 7 games. And I wouldn't be surprised if it went 7 again this year, but obviously it looked a little bit different. But you know what? When you look at the Edmonton Oilers, I feel like 5-on-5, when the calls start going away, which they will, as the series goes deeper, as the series goes on to a Game 6, to a Game 7, the Edmonton Oilers, to me, look like they can really combat what the Panthers are doing 5-on-5. The only reason the Oilers lost Game 3 is because they were undisciplined and they look like an immature team, and the Panthers took advantage on the power play. And similarly to that, in Game 4, in that first period, when that started to kind of go away and the Oilers started to get going, they can combat the Panthers very well. So I wouldn't say I'm necessarily worried because they're taking advantage of the opportunities that are given to them. But when those start to dry up, which they do for every team as the series goes on, you have to be very careful because I feel like the Oilers do have them figured out to a degree. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. If the Oilers are more disciplined, if the games are mostly 5-on-5 moving forward, especially in the first periods, because I feel like there's been a lot of calls in first periods in this series, then I would be maybe a little bit worried. But still, the Panthers are a fantastic team. What they've been able to do without Tkachuk, who finally came alive in Game 4, throughout the whole playoffs, even Barkov barely scoring, is really impressive. They're a very deep team. And obviously Seth Jones, what he's done, playing like half the game, every single game, and Bobrovsky, I wouldn't be worried yet, but there are certain things to keep tabs on as the series goes on, because as the series goes on, it changes.
And I mean, the big thing is, listen, the goaltending. We're going to touch on Bobrovsky real quickly. Looking at his last 5 games and looking at the grand scheme of his playoffs, I know it's a lot here. He played a lot so far this year. The big thing is he's only lost back-to-back games once, and that was versus the Toronto Maple Leafs in the second round, which was quite some time ago. So there is Bob. Bob is a deciding factor on this, but Panthers fans, what is your thoughts on this? I understand a disappointing loss, a 3-0 lead, and then you blow this to lose in overtime. You looked like the better team for a good part of this game. We looked good right at the end of the game to force overtime. Are you worried? Do you think Bobrovsky is going to step up? Who do you think needs to step up in this lineup right now? Is it Matthew Tkachuk? Do you think Sam Bennett needs to continue with Brad Marchand putting the team on his back? And Oilers fans, what is your thoughts on this comeback? And do you think this is the deciding factor on the Stanley Cup Finals? Let us know down in the comments. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back with another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark, and my co-host, Darius. Take care.